Something weird is happening on Instagram right now. The platform is changing fast, and those who adapt will see massive growth, including me. Let's talk about the new way to grow on Instagram so that you can grow too. All right, so the first new way to grow on Instagram is trial reels. Now, I know a lot of you guys have been asking me to talk about this for a while. Here I am, I'm talking about it because this new feature has unlocked so much growth for so many creators. If you're not familiar with trial reels already, it's essentially a feature which allows you to test your reels. So how it works is you go to post a reel, you select the trial reel toggle, and that reel will only be showed to a group of people who don't already follow you. What you'll then be able to do is review the analytics to see how the people who don't follow you responded to that reel, and you can use that data to make an informed decision as to whether or not you're going to post that reel to your broader... Oh, she fell. Oh my God, I'm very clingy today. I bet she was like slowly falling that whole time and I didn't even notice. I'm so sorry. You can then use that data to make a decision as to whether or not you want to share that reel with your entire audience. Now, that's the method that Instagram has advised when it comes to try reels, but there are some sneaky things you can do with this feature which may unlock some new growth for you. One way you can use trial reels is to do A/B testing, which is essentially when you create multiple versions of the same reel and make one small tweak between each and test them to see which reel performed best. Let me show you an example of when I've done this recently. These are some reels that I created which had a similar style to them. It's just that the text and the background was slightly different, right? I uploaded all 3 of these reels as trial reels, and then I was able to review the data to see which reel performed best, which was clearly this one. And then I was able to make the decision as to whether or not I wanted to share that version with my audience. I actually interviewed a creator who gave me this idea. It was part of a recent virtual workshop that I hosted, which, by the way, I host these all the time. So if you want to join my next one, make sure you join my email list via the link in my description. The creator who I interviewed is called Savenya. I'll put a link to her channel below. She spoke to us about this post, which went incredibly viral and literally got hundreds of thousands of views and likes. And she explained that she actually uploaded a few different versions of this reel as a trial reel to see which performed best. And she left those trial reels running because even the trial reels received millions and millions of views. Now, another way that creators are using trial reels to grow is to simply use it as a way to reach a new audience. You'll recall that when I was explaining what trial reels are, I said that these reels are only showed to a group of people who do not currently follow you. Now, this is super important for anyone who uploads content, looks at analytics, and it consistently looks like this. This is basically showing you that your content is pretty much only being showed to people who follow you. In order for you to grow, you need to reach people who don't currently follow you. Trial reels is telling you point blank that any content you upload as a trial reel will only be shown to people who don't follow you. Therefore, a great way to utilize this is to post a trial reel every single day. Maybe it's a repost of a popular reel or TikTok that you shared in the past. Maybe it's a download from a story which you previously thought wasn't high quality enough, but you're willing to trial it out and see how it performs. Using trial reels to consistently pump out content, see how a new audience responds to it, but also just to get in front of new eyeballs is a great way for you to grow your audience. Tip 2, reposts. I feel like I've spoken about reposts a lot already. I don't know why. Maybe I've just spoken about it on my Instagram content. I'm not quite sure, but reposts is a new feature released by Instagram and it is changing the game for creators when it comes to growth, okay? If you are a TikTok user, you'll be familiar with what reposts are. It's essentially when your audience are able to repost your content so that it's shown to their followers. Now, it probably goes without saying that this is an incredible opportunity for us because if we get just one repost, let alone 2, 3, 4, 5, tens of reposts, we're giving ourselves the ability to get in front of people who don't already follow us. And that is honestly the essence of growth. That's what we're all striving to do, right? So creating content that's going to be reposted by our audience is an amazing way for us to do that. Now, obviously, I'm not just going to leave it there. I'm going to give you some practical tips if you want to start creating content that is more likely to get reposted by your audience. There are really 4 types of content which tend to lend itself to being reposted. Sorry, Mojo's licking my hand profusely, which I don't usually like, but it's supposed to calm dogs. So I'm trying to just let her do it, but it's a bit gross. Sorry, baby. She's mad at me now. The first type of content is highly relatable content. So this is content which people consume and it makes them say to themselves, oh my God, that's so me. Like maybe you're sharing a relatable experience or story. That kind of content is likely to be reposted by your audience. Always remember that when it comes to creating content full stop, but especially when you're trying to be relatable, you shouldn't be trying to relate to people who aren't in your audience, right? You're not going to be relatable to everyone, but you will be relatable to a specific group of people. And those group of people are your audience. So be authentic to yourself. The next type is cause-driven content. So this is when you share content about something that your audience will care about. When you share content like that, you increase the chances of your audience wanting to repost it and share it with their followers. Then you have entertaining content like funny skits or memes. Honestly, the more niche they are, the better. Again, really think about who your audience are and what they find entertaining and funny. That type of content is often being reposted at the moment. And then lastly, content which has some kind of shock value. Maybe it includes something unexpected within it. That type of content, which kind of stops people in their tracks, is also likely to be shared by them as well. So have a go at creating those 4 different types of content and see if your reposts increase. This next one is a heavily nuanced one. I just want to get this out there. But the tip is to post more on Instagram. Now, let me explain. A recent study, and I'll put a link to it below, the study showed that broadly, the more times creators posted on Instagram, the more their growth rate increased. So as you can see by this beautiful graph, the creators who were seeing the highest growth rate were those who are posting over 10 posts per week. And yes, if you're super quick at math like I am, you'll know that that equates to more than 1 post a day, which has traditionally always been Instagram's recommendation and honestly always been mine. The reason why I say this is heavily nuanced is because posting multiple feed posts a day is usually not something that the average person is able to do whilst maintaining a good standard and quality of their content. So in my opinion, if your quality is going to drop, then there's no need for you to be posting multiple times a day. In addition to this, when I have run tests on my account and on other previous clients' accounts, we've often found that our reach, engagement, and growth actually decreases when we share more than 1 post per day. I actually have a theory behind this. I think that the larger your audience is, the more you'll benefit from posting multiple times a day, because it doesn't quite overwhelm the algorithm, because you have so many people in your audience that the algorithm is able to distribute the multiple posts quite effectively. Whereas if you are someone who has a smaller audience, and by that I mean anything under 5,000 followers, which isn't small, that's a lot of people, but I just mean in the context of this conversation, right? If you have a smaller audience, I think that when you post multiple times a day, it actually overwhelms the algorithm and none of your posts end up getting the amount of reach that they deserve. The conclusion that I would take from this, because obviously we cannot compare hard data to just my vibe, is for you to test it. If you're someone who thinks that they can keep up the quality of their content and post multiple posts per day onto your feed on Instagram, then why don't you test it for a few months? Yes, I did say a few months to give it a real good test and see how it goes. Better yet, send me some screenshots. Let me know how it goes. Send me a DM so that I can talk about it on my next edition of this video, right? Thank you in advance.
Thank you.
The next tip is something that I am calling strategic comment seeding. This is actually one that my LinkedIn freelancer, yes, I do have someone who helps me repurpose all of my other content for LinkedIn. Yes, that is incredibly extra, but guess what, guys? If I didn't have help, then I would simply not be able to do it. God, I sound ridiculous, but you know what? It is what it is. She's incredible. And she does this thing called comment seeding on LinkedIn. And I think it could actually be pretty powerful on Instagram too. The idea is that you don't wait for engagement under your content, you create it. And you create it by asking very targeted strategic questions yourself in your comment section in order to spark more engagement. For example, maybe you leave a comment which provides some extra context that you wasn't able to fit in the caption. Maybe you leave another comment which asks people what was their key takeaway from your video. Maybe you leave another comment with a new call to action, which says something like, why don't you guys tell me what you're up to this Sunday? Obviously pick that strategy and tailor it depending on your content. But I found that this works best when you share between 1 to 3 different comments in your comment section to drive more engagement. The final tip is to level up your storytelling. Yay. I'm doing that thing where I start to get crabby about a tip that I feel like I'm sharing a lot. Storytelling, I think, is like the buzzword of 2025 for creators. It's become such an important element of content. And therefore, I feel like I'm talking about it all the time. But the truth is, I've started to incorporate a lot more storytelling into my short form video, and it is performing so well at the minute. So do you know what? It works. Here are some quick tips that you can use in your content to help you tell a better story. First tip is to start with a hook. Now look, we all know that we need to start with a hook. At least I hope that you know that you need to start with a hook in your content. The truth is though, hooks are becoming slightly more complex, unfortunately. They now have multiple elements to it. There's the visual element, there's the words, there's the pacing. I fortunately have an entire video, that's right, an entire video dedicated to teaching you how to create effective hooks for your social media content, including your Instagram content. So I'm gonna link to it above, and I highly recommend that you watch it to get the full lowdown. The next tip is to use a simple structure. If you're trying to tell a story, there must be a beginning, a middle, and an end. There also must be a clear character. Who is this story about? Is it about you? Make that clear. Another tip is to build some curiosity and some tension before you provide the payoff. The example I always use here is like any Mr. Beast video. Now I know he creates YouTube videos, and I know that's different to like Instagram reel, but if you haven't watched any of his content before, just watch it, because he does a great job at building so much tension before the eventual payout, which is always at the end of the video, and it really keeps you hooked throughout. Now, fortunately for you guys, I also have an entire video just on storytelling. I'm really delivering, I think, at the moment. So if you want to learn more about how you can tell better stories in your Instagram content, I highly recommend that you watch this video next. It will be on the screen right now for you to consume. Thank you so much for watching this. As always, I cannot wait to see you in my next video.